You're lying. The words left Consul Marcus Chen's mouth before his diplomatic training could stop them. 300 Valori nobles gasped in unison. The Empress's ceremonial guard raised their plasma lances. And Empress Thyria Valaestros, supreme ruler of the Valori Star Empire, went completely still. Marcus knew he was dead. But he couldn't take the words back, and he wouldn't have even if he could. For 6 months, he had served as Earth's trade representative to the Valori court. For 6 months, he had watched Empress Thyria make promises about human integration that never materialized. Mining contracts delayed indefinitely. Visa applications lost in bureaucratic limbo. Human workers deported on technicalities. And now she stood before the full assembly, announcing that humanity had voluntarily withdrawn their application for protected trade partner status. Consul Chen. The Empress's voice was ice and steel. You forget yourself. With respect, Your Radiance, humanity did not withdraw anything. Our application was denied without explanation, without appeal, and without the hearing that your own laws guarantee. Marcus's heart pounded, but his voice stayed steady. I have the documentation. The timestamps. The rejection notice that arrived 3 hours ago, backdated to make it appear we had missed the filing deadline. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Lord Kethvos, the Empress's chief advisor, stepped forward with a sneer. The human accuses Her Radiance of falsifying imperial documents. The penalty for such slander is not your concern, Lord Kethvos. The Empress raised one elegant hand. The human has made a claim. Let him present his evidence. The assembly fell silent. This was unprecedented. Valori law allowed commoners, and humans were far below commoners, to be executed for insulting nobility without trial. That the Empress was offering one suggested either extreme confidence or something Marcus couldn't identify. He stepped forward, activating his datapad with hands that wanted to tremble, but didn't. The evidence projected into the air above the assembly floor. The original application with its proper timestamp, the rejection notice with its impossible backdating, the audit trail showing the modification had been made from Lord Kethvos's personal terminal. The silence that followed was absolute. Lord Kethvos's azure skin paled to something closer to white. This is fabrication. Human technology cannot be trusted. Their systems are primitive, easily corrupted. Their systems, the Empress said quietly, use the same quantum verification protocols that we provided them as part of the initial trade agreement. Protocols that cannot be falsified. She turned to face her advisor. You told me humanity had withdrawn their application, Lord Kethvos. You assured me that our newest trade partners had simply lost interest. Your Radiance, you lied to me. The Empress's voice cut like a blade. You lied to me, and when this human discovered your deception, you arranged for him to publicly accuse me of the crime you committed. The assembly erupted. Guards moved toward Kethvos. The nobleman's eyes darted around the chamber, looking for allies, finding none. I acted for the good of the Empire, he shouted. Humans are parasites. Vermin. They breed like insects and consume everything they touch. In 2 generations, they will outnumber us. In 5, they will replace us. They are our treaty partners, the Empress said, and they are under my protection. Your protection means nothing. You are weak. You always have been. Your mother knew it, your council knows it, and soon the entire empire will. The plasma lance took him in the chest before he could finish. He crumpled without a sound. The guard who had fired holstered her weapon and knelt. Forgive me, Your Radiance. He was reaching for a weapon. He hadn't been. Everyone had seen that, but no one contradicted her. The Empress stood motionless for a long moment, staring at the body of her former advisor. Then she turned to Marcus. Consul Chen, you have accused me of lying before my entire court. I accused Lord Kethvos, Your Radiance. His deception created the appearance that you accused me. Her golden eyes fixed on his. The words left your mouth. 300 witnesses heard them. By our law, you should be dead. Marcus met her gaze. He had nothing left to lose. Then I will die having told the truth. That's more than most diplomats can say. Something flickered in the Empress's expression. Surprise? Respect? He couldn't tell. You will dine with me tonight, she said. We have matters to discuss. Then she swept from the assembly, leaving Marcus standing amid the chaos, wondering what kind of discussion required a private dinner with the woman he had just publicly humiliated. The Empress's private dining chamber was smaller than Marcus had expected. Intimate, even. A table set for 2, soft lighting that made the crystalline walls glow like captured starlight, and no servants in sight. Thyria entered without ceremony, her imperial robes replaced by a simple gown that made her look almost approachable. Almost. Sit, she said. He sat. You are either the bravest human I have ever met, she said, taking the seat across from him, or the most foolish. I've been told they're often the same thing. Indeed. She studied him with those unsettling golden eyes. The Valori had no pupils, just swirling depths of color that seemed to see everything and reveal nothing. Tell me about yourself, Marcus Chen. Your file says you were a military officer before you became a diplomat, naval commander. I served 15 years before the consolidation made most of our fleet obsolete. The consolidation, when your nations finally stopped fighting each other. When we realized there were bigger things to fight for. Or against. Theria's mouth curved slightly. And what do you fight for now? The same thing I always have. People who can't fight for themselves. He paused. The human workers in your mining colonies. The families separated by your visa restrictions. The children who've never seen Earth because their parents can't afford the travel permits your bureaucracy requires. Lord Kethvos's bureaucracy. With respect, your radiance, you signed the policies. You appointed the administrators. The machinery of exclusion bore your seal. He expected anger. He received something else, a long exhalation that might have been a sigh. You're not wrong, she said. I inherited an empire designed to resist change. Every reform I propose is diluted by councils and committees until it becomes meaningless. Every progressive policy is quietly sabotaged by nobles who profit from the status quo. She looked at him directly. I have been Empress for 12 years. In that time, I have accomplished almost nothing that matters. Then why did you save me today? Because you did something no one has done in 12 years. You told me the truth. She leaned forward. Do you understand what it means to rule? Every word spoken to me is calculated for advantage. Every smile hides an agenda. Every bow conceals contempt or greed or fear. I have not had an honest conversation since my coronation. Marcus thought of his own isolation, the careful distance required by diplomatic protocol, the endless performance of neutrality, the loneliness of representing a species that most of the galaxy dismissed as aggressive children. I understand more than you might think, he said. I believe you do. Theory arose, moving to a window that looked out over the Imperial Gardens. Lord Kethvos was not acting alone. His faction includes at least 20 nobles of significant rank, along with military commanders and trade officials. They have been undermining human integration since the treaty was signed. Why? Fear. The same fear that has driven every atrocity in Valori history. She turned to face him. We live for centuries, Marcus. We reproduce, slowly. We change even more slowly. And then humanity arrived, vibrant, chaotic, multiplying, adapting, transforming everything you touch. In 50 years, you went from first contact to having embassies on 100 worlds. That terrifies them. It terrifies me. Her admission was quiet, almost vulnerable. Not because I think you will destroy us, but because I know you will change us. And I do not know if my people can survive that change. Marcus stood, moving closer to her but maintaining respectful distance. Change isn't destruction. It's growth. Evolution. The Valori built an empire that's lasted 10,000 years. Humanity could learn from that stability. And maybe, he hesitated, maybe the Valori could learn something from us too. About adaptability. About finding strength in diversity instead of uniformity. Theria studied him for a long moment. You truly believe that? I wouldn't be here if I didn't. No, she said softly. I don't suppose you would. She returned to the table, gesturing for him to join her. I have a proposition for you, Marcus Chen. It will likely destroy both our careers and possibly our lives. I'm listening. Help me dismantle the faction that tried to destroy humanity's trade status. Not through politics or diplomacy. Those paths are blocked. Through truth. Through evidence. Through the same stubborn honesty that made you stand before my court and call me a liar. You want me to help you investigate your own nobility? I want you to help me save my empire from itself. Her golden eyes met his. And perhaps, in the process, we might save your people as well. Marcus should have refused. Should have contacted Earth's government, requested new instructions, followed proper channels. Instead, he extended his hand, a human gesture she had probably studied but never experienced. Partners then? She looked at his hand for a long moment. Then, slowly, she took it. Her grip was cool and precise, her skin smooth as polished stone. Partners. The months that followed were the most dangerous of Marcus's life. By day, he maintained his cover as Earth's trade representative, filing reports, attending functions, performing the endless theater of diplomacy. By night, he and Theria built their case against the faction that threatened both their peoples. They met in secret, Her private garden, abandoned sections of the palace, even the servant passages that honeycombed the imperial complex. They reviewed documents, interviewed witnesses, traced financial connections that revealed the depth of the conspiracy. And somewhere in those stolen hours, something else began to grow. Marcus couldn't pinpoint when it started. Perhaps when he found Theria crying silently in her garden, after a particularly brutal council session. Valori didn't sob, but their tears fell like liquid silver, and hers had been falling for hours. Perhaps when she laughed for the first time at one of his terrible jokes, the sound so unexpected that they both fell silent in shock. Perhaps when their hands began to brush accidentally during evidence reviews, and neither pulled away. They never spoke of it. The distance between Human Trade Consul and Valerie Empress was too vast to bridge with words. But the distance between Marcus and Theria, just the two of them, stripped of titles and duties, grew smaller every day. It was Theria who finally broke the silence. They were reviewing intercepted communications in her private study, shoulders nearly touching as they studied the same screen. Marcus turned to point out a discrepancy and found her face inches from his. "We cannot continue like this," she said quietly. His heart dropped. "I know. If the investigation is compromised, that is not what I mean." Her golden eyes held his. "I mean that I cannot continue to pretend that I see you only as an ally. A tool. A means to an end. Theria, I have not spoken my name aloud to anyone in 12 years. It is used only by family, by those we love." Her voice wavered. "I did not give you permission to use it. I'm sorry. I am giving you permission now." Marcus forgot to breathe. "I know this is forbidden," she continued. "I know the scandal would destroy everything we've built. I know that your lifespan is a fraction of mine, that every year with you would be a year closer to losing you. I know." Her voice broke. "I know all the reasons this cannot work. But I cannot seem to make myself care about any of them." Marcus reached up slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. His fingers touched her cheek, cool and smooth and impossibly precious. "I've loved you for months," he admitted. "I thought I was being subtle. You were, by human standards." The corner of her mouth curved. "By Valori standards, you might as well have shouted it from the palace roof. I didn't want to presume. You're an Empress. I'm a trade consul from a species your people consider barely sentient. You're a man who called me a liar in front of my entire court because he couldn't stomach injustice." She leaned into his touch. "You're the first person in 12 years who has treated me like a person instead of a symbol. You're..." She stopped, searching for words. "You're the only one who has ever made me want to be more than what I am." Marcus kissed her then. It was awkward. Valerie mouths weren't quite shaped for human kissing, but she responded with a fierce hunger that made his heart soar. When they finally separated, both breathing hard, Theria rested her forehead against his. "They will try to destroy us," she whispered. "Let them try. I am serious, Marcus. When this becomes known, and it will become known, every enemy I have ever made will use it against me. Against you. Against your entire species. Then, we'll face them together." He pulled back enough to meet her eyes. "I accused you of lying in front of 300 nobles and lived to tell about it. I'm pretty sure we can handle a little scandal." Theria laughed, that rare, precious sound, and kissed him again. They didn't notice the servant drone recording from the shadows. The images appeared on every news feed in the Empire simultaneously. Marcus and Theria, in her private study, kissing, holding each other, speaking words of love that the drone's audio enhancers captured with devastating clarity. By dawn, the Imperial Council had convened an emergency session. By noon, a delegation of high nobles had demanded Theria's abdication. By evening, Marcus had been arrested and charged with corruption of the imperial bloodline. The trial, if it could be called that, took place in the Grand Assembly, the same chamber where Marcus had first accused the Empress of lying. This time, however, he stood in chains, surrounded by guards, facing a panel of judges who had already decided his fate. "The evidence is incontrovertible, Lord Maven," the senior judge pronounced. "The human has seduced our Empress through alien manipulation. He has corrupted the purity of our leadership. The penalty, as prescribed by the laws of sacred blood, is death by solar immersion." The crowd roared approval. Marcus kept his head high, searching the gallery for Theria. He found her on the imperial balcony, surrounded by guards who were clearly as much jailers as protectors. "The prisoner will speak his final words," Maven intoned. Marcus stepped forward as far as his chains allowed. "I have only this to say. I love Empress Theria. Not for her crown, not for her power, not for any advantage she could give me or my people. I love her because she is brave, and lonely, and determined to be better than the empire that made her. I love her because she saw me, truly saw me, when no one else in this galaxy bothered to look." He turned to face the balcony, meeting Tharia's eyes across the vast chamber. And I want her to know that whatever happens next, I don't regret a single moment. Tharia moved before her guards could stop her. She vaulted the balcony railing, a drop that would have killed a human but merely jarred a Valeri, and strode across the assembly floor toward the judge's platform. Your radiance, Maven spluttered. This is highly irregular. I invoke the right of imperial truth, Tharia announced, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. A right guaranteed to every empress since the founding of this empire. I demand to address this assembly, and by sacred law, you cannot refuse me. The judges exchanged panicked glances. The right of imperial truth was ancient, rarely invoked, and absolutely binding. Speak then, Maven said reluctantly. Tharia turned to face the assembly, hundreds of nobles, officials, and observers who had come to watch a human die. You accuse Marcus Chen of corrupting me, she began. Of seducing me through alien manipulation. Of polluting the sacred imperial bloodline. She paused. Let me tell you what he actually did. She spoke for an hour. She told them about Lord Kethvos's conspiracy and the evidence she and Marcus had gathered. She told them about the 20 nobles who had been systematically sabotaging human integration, and revealed that those same nobles had orchestrated the drone recording, the leak, and the trial. They did not expose our relationship because they cared about purity or tradition, she said. They exposed it because we were about to expose them. Because this human, this primitive, this vermin, had helped me accomplish more in 6 months than I had managed in 12 years of rule. She walked to Marcus and stood beside him, taking his chained hand in hers. I publicly accused her of lying, she said, echoing his words from months ago. Today, she publicly defends my honor. That is what Marcus Chen did for me. He gave me someone to fight beside. Someone who saw me as more than a crown or a commodity. Someone who made me believe that I could be the empress my people deserve. She faced the judges. You can execute him. You can execute us both. But you cannot change the truth. That humanity has shown this empire more courage and integrity than our own nobility. And you cannot stop what's coming, because the evidence of the conspiracy has already been transmitted to every news service in the empire. By morning, every citizen will know what these nobles have done. Chaos erupted. The implicated nobles tried to flee. Guards intercepted them. Loyalist officers revealed themselves and took control of the chamber. And through it all, Marcus and Tharia stood together, hands clasped, weathering the storm they had created. When the chaos finally subsided, Lord Maven, who had been revealed as a minor conspirator himself, was among those in custody. A new panel of judges had been hastily assembled. What is your verdict? Tharia asked them. The senior judge, an ancient Valori woman who had served under 3 empresses, studied the couple for a long moment. The charges against Consul Marcus Chen are dismissed, she pronounced. The evidence clearly demonstrates that any relationship between him and her radiance was mutual, genuine, and in no way harmful to the empire. She paused. Indeed, the prosecution itself appears to have been a criminal conspiracy. The assembly burst into applause, not universal, but substantial. More support than Marcus had expected. More hope than he had dared to feel. Tharia unlocked his chains herself, her hands trembling slightly. I believe, she said quietly, that I promised you we would face them together. Marcus pulled her close, heedless of the watching crowd. You also said they would try to destroy us. They tried. She smiled. A real smile, unguarded and radiant. They failed. So what happens now? Tharia kissed him, in full view of the assembly, the news drones, and the entire watching empire. Now, she said against his lips, we start building something new. Together. The reforms came quickly after that. Human integration accelerated. The conspiracy was dismantled. And on the first anniversary of the trial, Empress Tharia Valiastros announced her formal bonding to Consul Marcus Chen, the first human ever to join a Valori imperial house. The galaxy was shocked. Scholars debated. Politicians pontificated. But in the private garden where they had first begun to truly see each other, Marcus and Tharia simply held hands and watched the stars emerge, knowing that whatever came next, they would face it the way they had faced everything else. Honestly. Together. And without regret.